Well, welcome back people to the channel on this very hot day here in the UK, topping out at around 28 degrees. That's nothing in comparison to what some of you are getting worldwide. I know that some of you are getting a lot more. In fact, there's a heat wave all the way across North America, Mexico, South America, everywhere basically, and even into Europe. And if you're not getting the heat waves, you are getting serious downpours of rain and even sleet, which is crazy, causing havoc. So this brings me on to this one regarding, and it's something I've not touched on before in a big way in my videos, and that's climate change. And is there a reason why I drive an electric car? Part of that, we'll come across that later. First of all, I've got to say that I actually do believe that climate change has been sped up by us humans, including me. As you know, on this channel I have had 4 decades plus of very noisy, very polluting big V8 American vehicles, which I ran and imported from the USA for decades. Well, those times have changed. I no longer do that. I haven't done that for 5 years, so that's been a blessing. So I'm kind of making up for the world's pollution that I've created. I'm doing this video purely because I'm ready to go on a cruise for 12 nights in late September. So this is what brought me to this place I'm at now, considering any guilt that I've got for going on this cruise. And should people be guilty of what they do in their daily lives when the world's changing so rapidly now? And if the scientists are correct, I don't see my grandchildren having the food and the lifestyle that I've got now and the air quality. So, and we all take that for granted. Now, if you are a climate change denier, you might not want to watch this. So I would suggest you go and watch something else on YouTube and not me. I'm not really bothered if you don't watch this being a denier. But on the other hand, I would love you to stop and watch this and see why I, on a personal basis, want change, and I am changing on certain aspects of my lifestyle. And this cruise that's coming up in September might be the last I ever do, just as an experience. But I have done one thing, okay, which I'll come across later, that has helped me decide to go on this cruise. I don't normally rant heavily on the climate science. I am no scientist. A lot of you out there are going to say that it's nothing to do with humans. Well, I don't believe that one iota anymore. 5-10 years ago, I used to think the same as you. Yes, you there, I can see you. You denying. Well, I believe now that humans have had a massive input to this and why it's happening. Well, 2 hours later, change of clothes. I've been sweating, it's been hot. And I thought, well, actually it's more than 2 hours, it's about 3.5 hours later. It's now around 7:30 p.m. and the temperature out here is still 23 degrees C. Getting back to this, I've just shown you that clip there. It was a short I put on around 2 months ago. I put it on purely because I wanted to show you some of the things that I've started to do. This is very, very simple, costs nothing and a tiny bit of time. Some of them things you've seen there, like the plastic bottle scenario and everything else, some of them obviously can only work if you've got an electric car, sorry to say, i.e. using charges instead of fuel and gas stations. But there is some bits and bobs in there, so I had to put it in because I believe a lot in that short, that you should be doing more and others you should be doing far less. So that's clear. Okay, back to this cruise. Now this cruise is going to happen in mid to late September. and I've decided on doing it for one of the main reasons is I've never done one before. But then as I thought about booking it, the guilt trip dropped in. Now this may not happen to a lot of people out there, but me, as I've got older, like I said before, I do seem to care more regarding what I'm using, you know, what I'm doing with my life, how I'm spending my money and my time and everything else. And this is why one of the reasons I started this YouTube channel up nearly 3 years ago, to just to show people that I've been using an electric vehicle the same as any car can use, any ICE car that I've had. So that's why I started this channel up. Cruise ships are one of the dirtiest vehicles you'll ever sit on, lay on and use. Simple. All shipping is done with the cheapest, dirtiest diesel product that you can possibly find. It's unfiltered, it's untreated, it's just bleh, burn it up, watch all that big black smoke come out of that tunnel above and get those people across on this cruise. And this has kind of hit me, thinking that I'm going to be going on one of these ships. Now, little caveat to that is that when I booked it, I thought, do I fly out of the UK over to, say, Miami and go on a Caribbean cruise, or do I fly out to the Balearic Islands and go on a Spanish cruise from there and then fly back once I've had the cruise? So I decided not to fly. Now that for me is brilliant, because I'm not polluting both ways and both formats. I'm only going to be polluting on the actual vessel itself and not on a plane, first of all, with 320 other people flying out to get to this cruise. I'm actually going down on a coach. Now you may think, well, that's diesel as well, but you have to draw the barrier, have to draw the line somewhere, because there isn't an electric coach that I can use at this particular time. Now hold that bus, this is electric, this is National Express, but it's only used from London City itself to Stansted Airport. So well done National Express, the first of many to come, I'm sure, on their coaches. So when there's a coach available, electric, I'll start using them more. To get me down to Southampton from where I live here in the East Midlands. So yes, it's a diesel coach, but that diesel coach for that 160 mile down there is being shared by 50 or 60 people. So if you dilute that pollution, it ain't a big deal. So this is where I draw the line and put a barrier, and I have to be able to come up to it, think about it and go, yeah, that's okay, it's fine. In years to come, I may well think very different. Not only are we, one, not flying, two, we're not using any personal transportation, we're sharing a coach with 55, 60 other people. So if not maybe more. So in a way, I think I've done my environmental bit to be able to go on this cruise. Am I going to still feel very guilty when I'm on there and it's chugging away and I look up and I can smell and see all that black smoke puking out the top for people's leisure activity? Yeah, probably. I'm going to be very factual here, and that is, up to last week, June was rubbishing, too cold. So it was the other way round, really, with temperatures during the day of around 13 to 14 degrees. No good for nature, no good for nesting birds, no good for me. So one extreme to the other, and while the rest of Europe was getting flooded. Luckily we didn't go that route. Anyway, let's move back onto this cruise. Like I say, this is a complete trial for me and the wife, because we've not done one before. We had really no intention of doing one. We would sooner go and do a road trip in an electric car, which is still planned for 2026, by the way, remember that. Yeah, it's on a real nice cruise ship. It's just a great shame that cruise ship isn't fully electric or even hybrid. I know I'm a big hybrid fan, but if you could at least lose a third of that pollution down to a battery pack which could contain itself and run on the slow periods, and you know, when it's cruising in and out of ports, etc. Yeah, that would be great. I probably wouldn't feel as guilty. And yeah, although I'm not a hybrid lover, but that's one way of using a hybrid well instead of personal transportation. But there is no cruise ships out there that I could book and I could go on that are either full electric, hybrid, or anything near that. I hope I don't see a great deal of waste while I'm there either, you know, on plastics and stuff like that. That would annoy me, because this is an American company, this is an American cruise ship, and I know even with plastic straws, etc., the Americans are a bit behind us, although we've gone all paper now, and same as, you know, solo cups, one-use plastic cups. Let's just hope I don't see any of that, because that'd annoy me. It's that kind of thing where I'm saying here that all of us can do his bit, and don't buy them, don't use them. Now, I don't drink a lot of bottled water. I use that thing there. It's called a tap. Nothing wrong with tap water. But if you have to have one of these, buy the bottles where the tops stay with the bottle, so that this top doesn't come loose and end up in the rivers, streams, or wherever. So that's the idea of that. Little things like that. So, how do you feel about this? Do you get on a anxiety thing? I don't suffer from anxiety, don't get me wrong, so I'm going to maybe not use that word. Do you get optimistic that it won't be as bad as you feel, or are you not bothered about the pollution that cruise ship makes, as long as you're happy having your vacation / holiday period on it for 12 nights? Let me know in the comments below. So anyway, we'll move on away from the cruise ship. That was the main reason I've done this post, but it connects to so many other things, like some I've just already mentioned, like plastic straws and one-use solo cups and all the rest of it. We'll move on to the next thing I'm going to talk about. Now, anybody using an EV, I'm going to say this straight out because I know it's fact, without all the uneducated and the stupid and the trolls and everything else, blah, 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 you bore me to death on Facebook and wherever I go, I'm going to be very straight and factual and say that if you run an electric car for 1 year and do 20,000 miles, okay, that electric car is going to be far cleaner than any other vehicle that you can do 20,000 miles in, period. Fact. Don't argue it, go Google it, go see the science behind it and everything else. And even if I was running that electric car on coal-powered grids, which are virtually unheard of now, apart from maybe the Eastern Bloc, it would still be cleaner than a average, regular fossil fuel / ice car, be it diesel or petrol, especially an American one where you're still running large engines, V6s, V8s and all the rest of it, are 100% better. Today was a perfect example. I had a conversation today with a guy on Facebook. It wasn't a conversation, it was just a troll stating all this garbage. And he says, my car's got a catalytic converter, so my car don't pollute. Yeah, he actually said that, stated it, warrior fingers. My car does not pollute out of the exhaust, it's got a catalytic converter. Oh, God. I don't have to feel sorry for him, laugh at him, but I did answer back and said, look, you're talking garbage, mate. But anyway, let's change it. What else does everybody do to help the environment? Anything? Nothing? Do you bother about plastics you use on a daily basis? Intrigued to know. Do you bother how your food is wrapped from supermarkets? How do you feel about ULEZ, which I've not mentioned a great deal on this channel? ULEZ to my foreign subscribers and watchers. Hello, America, India, Germany, France, Japan. Sorry if I've missed anywhere. Australia. ULEZ is something that was brought in by the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, to help clean the air in a perimeter around London. And the perimeter is now getting bigger and bigger, so the further out from central London, it's getting large. Now, people have to pay the fines, say it don't work, but the science behind it says it does work. The air is cleaner because of the cars that have been stopped from going in, dirty diesels, older cars that pollute more. You do get away without paying anything if you've got certain cars, like most electric cars obviously go in and don't pay anything, and there's other bands that get in the ULEZ segments free of charge. Not everybody gets charged, and this is another thing with it that I'm not going into details about. I'm not going to argue about it, I'm not going to discuss it, because I don't live in London. It's a shithole. So, moving on. So what do you do in your daily life to help the climate, to help pollution, to help your grandkids' future, air quality? And there's lots of things. And the problem we've got here today, we have people who are trolling TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, and most of the media outlets, and they only listen to certain news outlets. So they take their news from that and they think it's real, and they swear by it, and you cannot change their minds. The problem with that, it brings in such stale thoughts to the point where you can't have a conversation with them. People may say I'm too pro EV. I might be an EV evangelist. I love that. I am an EV evangelist. EV evangelist. I can live with that. Call me that if you want. But I do believe that certain people, you will never change their minds. They don't use paper straws. They don't think, oh, what am I going to do with this plastic bottle? They chuck it straight out of their cars. They don't think about pollution in rivers. They don't care about air quality and for their grandchildren and even their kids they've got now. Air quality, for me, is still the massive one when it comes to the environmental side. You are not ploughing the atmosphere with pollutants and toxic waste, and also you're caring about the future and what you breathe and what we all breathe, because without it, kids, we're dead. It's great to think that every mile I do now in any electric car that I drive is totally exhaust emission free. Okay, time to finish this one up. I think I've covered most of what I meant to say in this. Basically, I need you to understand that I may be a little more OTT than other EV owners. Now, what I want to know from this, and the response I want in the comments, is one, are you as hardcore as me regarding trying to not use fossil fuel at all, i.e. another diesel car that you may have, a petrol car, a rental that you may want to do? Are you just somebody who runs an EV because you like the speed or because you like the silence? Or do you do it partly because it's good for the environment? Or are you, number three, maybe the owner of an EV who don't give a monkey's toss, really, and just uses an EV because it's what the work gave you? Or it's because it was the cheapest thing to buy at that time, or it suits your needs more than a fossil fuel car? I'm very intrigued to know. Like I say, I do take this on a personal vein. I've been wanting an RV and a van and an RV van for many years now, but the only way I can buy them is diesel, and I totally refuse to buy a diesel van because of the crap that spews out the back of them and the running costs and the expense of diesel. It's only going one way and that's up. So I think over the last 2 years, it's made a big difference to me how my outlook on air quality and why I own an EV. EV ownership gives me the rite of passage into, not being a virtue signaller. I do it purely because I want to do it, and I back it up with other things of planning my journeys better, trying to cut down on certain things, looking after the plastics I use and everything else that goes with it. And if you're an ICE car driver, do you think that EV drivers do virtue signal? Because if you do, I think you're a bit outdated. Maybe 5, 6, 8 years ago, there were some out there that, oh, look, I bought an electric car, I'm better and cleaner than you. Well, I think that's progressed massively, especially for me, 100%. I have nothing to do with diesel or petrol cars anymore. So I don't virtue signal, just because I'm driving an electric car. And don't forget, I've had 4 different electric cars. So been there, done it, and over 5 years. So I am not virtue signaling 100%. There may be a few who still are. Who knows? For me, this cruise that I've booked has highlighted one thing, and that is that I really do care, and there is a bit of guilt there. And the extreme of it is, are you one of these people that feel guilty far more than me, 100% all the time, for even having to still run a fossil fuel car or using a diesel van for work? Like I used to use a diesel pickup truck for my work up to 3 years ago, and then I jacked and finished work completely. But I was forced into using a diesel pickup truck, which I didn't like doing. I hated the damn thing. Hated it with a vengeance. A Ford Ranger. Gutless, smelly, dirty, noisy piece of garbage. Wouldn't be seen dead in one. So sorry, you Ford Ranger owners, if you didn't like that. Tough. It's just the way I am now. Electric pickups. I've been looking at one actually. The Maxus. Very tempted. But I decided against it. I'm still looking for that RV EV van. It has not been lost in translation yet, folks. As I said in the beginning of this on my channel, it is something we will 100% do. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Please subscribe if you've not before. I'm out of here. Ranted enough. Let me know in the comments. Please do. Enjoy your day. Catch you on the next one.